Hello, and welcome to the Explore the Extraordinary podcast. My name is Betty Guadagno. Today, I am joined by JClay. JClay is a musical, spiritual teacher. He's a wonderful human being. He's a very intricate part of my life, and I'm very excited to introduce him to the audience because he's going to be co-hosting some of the episodes of this podcast with me, and I wanted everybody to get to know him. And so welcome, Jay. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello, hello. It's a beautiful day in this earth, I guess, behind me. Yeah.
I like it. Very cool. So yeah, so Jay, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you help heal the collective?
Yeah, so I make music that it kind of breaks down some of those tough ideas. Like the lyrics are made in such a way that things that you might be going through, it kind of shifts your perception and you see the ways that you're keeping yourself from healing. So it's not necessarily that my music heals, it kind of makes you aware of how you're preventing your healing so that you can let that go and just start the healing process, start being your true self and forget about all the stuff that doesn't matter.
Wow, that's really interesting. So have you always felt called to be involved with music?
Yes, actually, maybe not the spiritual part. Well, I have, but I never thought about bridging the two. Yeah, I always knew from a young age that I was gonna do something with music. Yeah, I wanted to sing. Then people told me I couldn't sing, so I was like, well, I'll make beat. No, I wanted to rap, but I thought I had to be cool to rap. And so I was like, well, I'll just make beats and stuff. And then somewhere along the lines, I started rapping. I felt cool. And then, yeah, now we're here.
Nice. Very cool. So how did that come about for you? How did you transition into a spiritual rapper?
Yeah, so a lot of it comes from A Course in Miracles, which for those that don't know is, I guess it's a course of love, almost like it course of truth. Like it's imagine if you're a fan of hip hop, imagine like whoever's your favorite artist writing every line is like the greatest line you've ever heard in a rap song. Like that's what this book is. Like every line of this is like the greatest rap lyric ever. It shifts your perception. And that book for me was kind of like the missing pieces. I was almost there. Like I wasn't quite understanding of the truth. I still was believing in duality, so to speak. And that kind of brought me on track of the oneness. And since that book, I knew I couldn't continue to make the same type of music because I was perpetuating things that I didn't want for myself. I was sending out energy of more division, of more unlove and things of that nature. So I was like, yeah, some of these songs, even though they're good songs, I just got to let them go and start anew. And I will say, like some people have asked, well, why don't you remake the song? Why don't you just use the same melody? I've tried, but it's not the same energy. Like it's, when you make a song or when you make anything, it's the energy around it. And it's like, I don't know, just trying to put a pretty picture on something that people think is ugly or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the way that I exercised my creativity before coming into spiritual awareness, I can't use the same tools in my life today for it because it just doesn't fit. I totally identify with what you're saying. So, okay, you're talking about A Course in Miracles. I also study A Course in Miracles. And would you say that that's sort of like your spiritual awakening came from this book? Had you had spiritual awakenings before it?
Yeah, I think this was the biggest one. Like I might have had little things here and there because most of my, I call it spiritual advancements came from failure. Like, going toward a certain goal, getting really close and then everything falling apart. And, this happened so many times over and over. And each time I would go to God, like, why? Like I was so close, everything was going right. I did everything I was supposed to do. I followed the rules and all this other sob story things that you can insert here. And each time, like I was shown something that maybe I was resisting in myself or in others that I was putting out there. And again, like I guess the way A Course in Miracles kind of helped me was that right now is all that matters. the past is gone, the future does not exist. Like right now, are you choosing happiness right now? Are you choosing love right now? And in many instances, I was not. And I just knew I had to change, because I couldn't live with myself now knowing what I believe to know and then still living against that.
Wow. Yeah. I would say for me, I'll talk just about me. I can't speak for anybody else, but some things in my life I find challenging to just let go of and switch it into the other direction. What was that process like for you? You're saying that you were having sort of unloving thoughts, and how did you flip it around?
Yeah, well, I guess I convinced myself of how easy it is to let go. Like, and I use what I know. Like if you're holding a weight and you hold it forever, it just gets heavier and heavier. But when you let it go, you're like, it might feel weird at first because you held it so long, but after a while, it's so much easier. And I saw the patterns that not only I fit into, but people of the groups that I identified with fit into on every level. So not even just like the big ones like race and politics or sex, like just even the subgroups. Certain subgroups have a story that they tell themselves and recycle, and it sets the course of who are their enemies or what their obstacles are. But if you subtract that narrative that you tell yourself, then you won't have these pieces that can then oppose you.
Wow. Yeah. I would say that narratives are a big part of how we kind of play our life. In fact, you and I were having a conversation just yesterday about stories, the stories that we tell, and I think that for me in my life, I told myself a particular story my entire life before coming into spiritual awareness. I was loss, depression, grief, darkness. And so I kept creating more of that. And I understand that if I change my thought, I can change my reality. So that kind of sounds like what you're saying, but you're saying to detach from any narrative at all.
Yes. Well, not any narrative at all. Like you can attach to the narrative of truth, like that you're perfect right now, that everything is going to be all right. Everything is all right. Everything has always been all right. So it's more about you have the choice as to what narrative you want to serve. And I guess to you as well, like, was it the same thing when you realized the narrative you were telling yourself?
Well, I don't know if it was the same thing. I mean, now I tell myself a different narrative, and it's much more aligned with truth. But I still have, areas of my life where I go into like a false narrative,
Yeah.
Not really sure why I do that. I guess I kind of blame it on being a human. Like that's what I justify it as. But I really like what you're saying, to align with truth. So what would you say that a true narrative is?
So yeah, a true narrative is all about love. Everyone wins. It's not even about winning or losing, but like there's no judgment. And I guess okay, I'll put it like this. Sometimes if I'm caught in a negative thought pattern, it can be hard to find the good thought pattern because you're stuck in the negative. But by just not thinking anything, like, you know what, forget thinking completely. It's like you kind of just settle and you end up where you're supposed to end up. And now you're above the choice. So you can say, oh, okay, I can now think this if I choose to think, or I can continue to not think. So I guess a message of truth is really just a state of being. Like you're not really trying to do anything. You're just observing or just being and just letting things be as they will.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's a saying in a community that I belong to, and it's when you don't know what to do, do nothing at all. And that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. So yeah, I'm curious, what kind of spiritual teachers influence you currently?
Currently, ooh, that's a good question. Well, yeah, as you know, the homie Bashar is he's the man right now. For a while, it was Abraham Hicks, and it still is Abraham Hicks, but Bashar just brings a different, I guess, energy to it, and it's just as good. Like, I'm not saying Bashar is better than Abraham Hicks or anything. It's just a different energy, And I like it because it's no nonsense, but in a loving way. It's funny because like you can tell he's not trying to be rude in some instances. He's just trying to get to the truth. Like, yeah, okay, if you say so. And like you'll have to just Google or YouTube Bashar. But I love just the message of truth, and just being aligned with it. Like anything that just reminds you of your perfection, that reminds you of how awesome you are, instead of being reminded of the perceived problems we have to face day to day.
And how would you describe Bashar? How do they describe themselves?
Yeah, so what I understand of Bashar is it's a being from the future that lives on another star somewhere else, and they're being channeled through a guy named Daryl. I don't know his last name. And even that, right? Like before things like A Course in Miracles, I was a lot more closed-minded to things of that nature. Like I would be like, what? That sounds like nonsense. But when you forego that and just listen to what's being said and the energy behind it, all the other things just doesn't matter. You know, whether if it's coming from a child, someone that says that they're an alien, as long as it's helping and it has a loving message, to me, that's all that matters.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you've mentioned a couple of different routes of channeling in case people don't know. So Bashar is a channeled, I believe it's like a hybrid ET, right?
Yeah, you're right.
The guy's name is Daryl Anka. I could be making that up, but and then Abraham Hicks is the collective channeled through Esther Hicks.
Yeah.
Talked about A Course in Miracles as well, which is also a channeled message. It's channeled from Jesus through the mind of a woman, Helen Schumann. So have you ever had any experiences with being able to channel yourself?
I can't say for sure, but the music that I make, sometimes it just flows out and I'm like, wow, like it helps me too. It's things that I haven't considered, and it would just come out in such a way in a moment that it's like, wow, just had a revelation. So I don't know if that's actually channeling or it's the spirit flowing through me. Whatever it is, I'm just grateful for it. And but traditionally, no, I have not experienced any channeled things.
Yeah, I love that. I think that creativity is channeled. You know, like the creative action of spirit, however that shows up in our lives, you know, even just this conversation is like channeling in some way because we're expressing our creativity.
Yeah.
So I really love that.
And
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was gonna say, because I did have a question for you and, you know, whoever's watching, because I did always wonder that about creativity. Like, you know, we see these movies or we hear songs or TV shows that touch on these things, but then like, it's almost like you might hear from the author and they know nothing about this kind of world. And it's like, well, how did they tap into that? I think it's along the lines of what you were saying about, you know, creativity being that channel automatically.
Yeah. Ooh, I love what you're saying. Yeah. You know, like I wonder if there are like alternate timelines out there that are the Game of Thrones universe or are the Harry Potter universe. Like, how did these authors come up with such detailed, intricate designs around it?
Yeah.
Could be something like getting channeled from an alternate reality.
Wow. I haven't considered that because, and I'm just now learning about like other realities too. So that's kind of opening up. And I never considered that. Yeah, it's not even a new story. It's just being tapped. Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're going to run with that one. That's going to be our conversation for the next couple of days, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So this podcast is from the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And so, you know, we talk about all mystical experiences here. And I'm curious if you have any sort of mystical experience that you want to share about.
Yes. I'll share with one, maybe two. Okay. I recently went to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And from what I understand, it's like haunted. It's a place of just a lot of energy, and a lot of, I guess, wars took place there, and it is a little creepy at places and times and things. So the place that I was staying at, they they told me like there was a demon between the second and third floor, which again, they were okay with telling me this because they know the positivity I put out, and that I feel like positivity can trump anything and all of that. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder will I interact with it. You know, I kind of got goosebumps, but because it fascinated me, I was up for the challenge almost. And I remember one morning I had woke up and I just kept hearing like this tapping noise, just like tap, 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 tap. I'm like, what is that? And on the wall, like there's nothing connected to it. There's no real way for that to just happen. It was just very weird. And I think I was probably there for like maybe 3 or 4 days. And this happened on like the third day. Didn't happen before. So then like I kind of felt an energy. And so I was like, okay, well, here we go. I'm someplace new. I don't know what's going on. Let me just surrender and just give all the love I can give. And so I felt like the presence came, and I welcomed that presence in. I was like, you know, come in, you know, it's all love here, whatever. And then it felt like it just kind of neutralized, like maybe it passed on or not. I don't know this for sure. But then so I told one of the people I was staying with, I told her, you know, what happened. And she said that she's like, yeah, I don't want to tell you, but whenever I stay in this room, there's so many spirits that like come in and out, because she can actually see these spirits. And yeah, and she was just telling me that she knew that I can handle it, and how, but at the same time, she's been able to like sleep through the night a lot easier, because she says between like 2 and 4, she'll just wake up and, you know, she calls it the witching hour, and things would just happen. But she said that hadn't occurred when I was in the house. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. That's cool. So I guess in that way I have, but also like other just weird coincidences were happening that I can't even begin to explain while walking around in Harrisburg.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I was wondering if maybe you might want to share, you've got a couple of stories. Well, you got a story of healing. I think that one's really cool. If you'd like to share that. And then maybe, sorry, I'm like, this is me just like prompting you by telling you exactly what I want you to say. This isn't really great interview skills. My bad.
Oh, no, it's all good. Yeah.
I really like the story about on the basketball court when.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'll tell that. So yeah, this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was before COVID. Yeah. So pre-COVID, I was playing basketball, and I'm kind of a big guy, and I like playing defense and guarding the biggest, strongest person on the other team. Like, I feel like I'm the best defender there is when I'm on the court with that, because none of those are professionals. Okay, anyway. So I'm playing, and I'm playing with the guy who has me by like 6 inches, and I'm giving it to him. I'm stopping him the best I can, and it's getting a little physical. And so at one point, there's a lot of trash talk. And I guess one point I went for a rebound. I came down and my elbow went on his head or something. And so then like, I think I said, oh yeah, my bad or something, but, ran down the court. Then he got mad. He came up and, looked down on me and was ready to fight. Or at least it felt like he was ready to fight. And so the first thing that went in my mind, because I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, I was like, okay, if I sweep his legs, he'll fall, and then he'll be low enough where I can, punch him. But at the same time, I was learning A Course in Miracles. So I was like, dang it, I can't do that. I can't fight this guy. And all of this is happening in a split second. So I completely just drop my guard. I muster all the love I can, and I just look at him in his eyes. And instantly, literally instantly, he said, you know what? I'm getting too serious. I'm going to check myself out of the game. And after that, we've been cool since. We still talk stuff, but it's a mutual respect. And he even tells me, he talks stuff to me to get me riled up to even play better, which I do appreciate. But it was just a cool reminder. And since then, I've done it in numerous situations, not about to come to blows, like fighting wise, but maybe arguments or things. When I use the same tactic, it just neutralizes everything.
Wow. I feel like that is a skill that needs to be cultivated. That's not an easy thing to do. I feel like for me anyway, my emotions love to run the show. And so to say hey, emotions, why don't you take a back seat and let me just use this one emotion, love, when the rest of my emotions are demanding to be felt.
Well, I'll say in a twisted way, though, it was still the ego, because like not only do I want to learn what I'm learning about A Course in Miracles, but there's a part of me that understands it, that, you know, the body is not really real and it doesn't matter. So I wanted to show that, okay, what if he did just hit me? Because my guard was down completely. He could have just knocked me out, whatever. I wanted to just show myself that even that doesn't mean anything. So like even the ego was like, but just see if he'll hit you, you know, just like, let's just see. Because if you're truly who you say you are, you can heal from anything. And so it was funny how the ego, which is sometimes seen as negative, was able to even help me in that situation learn a positive lesson.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Amazing. So yeah, you know, I feel like when I lead from love, I really witness like amazing miracles around me without my permission. They just seem to attract their way to me. And do you want to tell us the miracle about your healing? And then maybe we could talk about how to bring that to other people's awareness, that they can also heal themselves.
Yeah. Okay. I'll preface it by like the basis of my understanding of healing. So I always try to ask myself the tough questions and get to it and answer. And if I can't come to an answer, I don't really let go of the question yet. Like, well, I let go for the time being, but I know an answer is going to come. I demand an answer to this question. And so it's almost like, you know, who are we or what are we? And, you know, you might say we're our thoughts, but again, our thoughts come and go. We're still here. We might say we're our experiences, but even our experiences, they are tainted by how we look at things, how we look at the world. And so it might not even have happened how we thought it happened. So the experience itself is not necessarily real. You might say we're our emotions, same thing, comes and goes. And so like thinking about all of this, I'm like, you know, what am I? And so, and scientifically, they say like your cells are always dying and being regenerated. And every 7 years, all of your cells would have regenerated. So like, you know, your skin might go every year, your tongue might go every 2 months. I don't know, but it's all regenerated. And so like, if you're over the age of 7, your body is reborn, it's completely new. But again, you've still been you through all of this. Like everything is going away. Your body went away. Your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences has all gone away, but you've still been you. So it's like, oh, okay, so I'm none of these things. Why am I worried so much about these things, like my body and things? Because my body's going to regenerate. And since it does regenerate, what blueprint does it regenerate to? Because, you know, some people, they believe you're going to get older and slower and, you know, less all of this. I can't accept that. I wasn't accepting that. Like, no, I'm getting better. Everything you do, you get better at. So that includes living. I'm going to get better at living. And yeah. So basketball court again, just playing basketball. Something happened. I fell wrong on my wrist and I didn't hear the snap because everybody was like, it was a huge snap. I didn't hear that. To me, it felt like if you got the wind knocked out of you. It was like, it was some energy from the top of my head to my foot that all just mashed up and met. And it was like, wow, I can't breathe for a second. It was just, I was out of breath. I was like, time out. I was like, y'all sub out. I'll be back in a second. So I'm sitting on the side and then I'm just getting sleepy because it's like my energy is drained and my wrist, it's not even really hurting yet. It's just, I don't know, it's just whatever. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to call it a day. I'm going to go home, ice it, whatever. And then a basketball friend said, well, you might want to go to the emergency room just in case they need to realign it. And that was the right words to say to me because, you know, I don't really care about medicine and all that. So I was like, well, he might be right. Let me go. So I went. And as I was in the waiting room, this is when my song Let Go had just came out. So I'm getting a lot of messages daily from a lot of people. And while I'm waiting, you know, I start to feel it, you know, hurt a little bit, but I'm also working toward letting go of the idea of pain at this point. So I noticed that when I engaged with these people, there was no pain. When I'm responding to them, felt nothing. And then I'll respond and just be sitting. And then I'll feel the pain come back. So I say, okay, let me meditate. I'll meditate, no pain. So I'm like, wow, okay, pain really doesn't exist if I can, you know, do these things and it just goes away. Because if it was real, it would always be here. So finally go to the back, the lady was like shocked and, are your fingers arcade? You're gonna lose your finger. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I did the X-ray. It was broken and fractured in like numerous places. And she was saying because of how it was, maybe I could have lost the blood circulation. I don't know. But again, I was lucky that I had this mindset, because a few years before that, her comments would have worried me. I would have been scared. I would have been praying, please God, don't take my risk, things like that. So I ended up getting surgery. They requested surgery for it. And even that was a miracle, because I don't have insurance, but I was able to, it just happened. Thank you, God. And so I started, the doctor told me, take it really easy. She was like, don't work out. I know you like working out and stuff. Just, take it real easy. Well, me, I want to push limits. So as soon as I could, I was doing like baby push-ups and just little things. And it was getting stronger. When I go for my checkup, she was like, wow, it's healing, fast. What are you doing? Are you doing anything? I'm like, no, I'm just taking it easy. Not telling her, I'm lifting weights and stuff, but yeah, it just healed a lot faster than it was supposed to. And I was grateful for the opportunity to show myself that, pain is an illusion. Healing can be easy. And I rolled with it. Since I didn't go play basketball during those following weeks, I was able to go to different places and meet new people that are still in my life today. So it's all divine.
Wow, that's so cool. I love how the universe sort of maps out these beautiful things for us. And, like these are testimonies. Like what you just shared is a testimony that pain doesn't have to rule a person. It didn't rule you. And because you didn't allow it to, you were able to heal much quicker.
Yeah.
So you have a song, it's called You Ain't Sick, and I love it. And I'm wondering if maybe you will talk a little bit about that, like while we're on the topic of healing.
Yeah, I can talk about it. You ain't sick it's really that. Like what you define for yourself is what you are. And as A Course of Miracles says, it says sickness is just, what is it? I started saying that and I can't remember. It's basically like you're just not being your true self. You're hiding from yourself almost, or you're choosing to not be aligned with love. And that's what it is. It's just reminding like you're not sick. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing. You don't have to tell me that you're sick. That's the main thing. I noticed that. Okay, I'll put it like this. I know I'm going all over the place. Things that are my temporary pet peeves, I put them in the songs. So I noticed that a lot of people will tell you, if you just met, they will tell you all of their symptoms out of nowhere. Like, yeah, I have this, I've been diagnosed with this, so I can't do this. I have this, so I can't do this. And it's like, I don't need to know that. Like, what if I didn't know that? Are you afraid that I would hold you to a higher standard so you can do it? And a lot of times we tell ourselves, again, these narratives of what I've been diagnosed with or what I have, and you ain't sick is kind of an appeal to that. Like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm not going to treat you like you're sick. I'm going to treat you like you're perfectly fine, which is why when you're in my presence, you feel perfectly fine and you forget that you were ever in pain, kind of like I did when I was engaging with those people. And that's exactly what it is. It was a very fun song, like a tough, lovish song. And it's cool.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we're definitely going to add links to all your music when we post this, because your music, it really does heal. The first time Jay has a song that's really popular, it's called Let Go. And when I heard it, I was perceiving that I was struggling with some issues with food and with self-image, and like listening to that song over and over again, it really did help me shift out of what was going on in my current circumstance. I don't want to tell JClay that, because I don't want to inflate that ego anymore. But really though, the music really does have healing qualities to it. And it's amazing. It's amazing how spirit has allowed you to create art in such a fun way too. I don't think I had ever heard any spiritual hip hop before I had heard your music. Is it something that is is it a established genre of music?
Okay. It's an interesting question, because it's kind of established, but I don't know if everyone always does it to the level that I try to do it. I'm sure all artists say that, like, yeah, my way of doing it is the best, but not really. I'm real particular as to if I repeat something, you know, in a song, I understand that those listening are going to repeat it too. So sometimes I might have to share the opposite to have the point across on what to do. So I don't want to say like, I suck, I suck, I suck. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want people to say that over and over in their mind. Yet sometimes it might be needed to prove a point later on in the song. And so I'm mindful of that. And I know that even some spiritual rap that I've heard, they still, even though it's leaning toward, you know, some of the spiritual principles, they might still sow the seeds of division, sow the seeds of toxicity, that it's a real thing that can affect you. And I'm not to say that it can't, but if somebody can be toxic, then somebody can be the cure. And so as long as you stay the cure, no toxicity can ever do anything to you. So it's like, why believe so much in the toxic person, but you won't believe in the curable person? And that's kind of how I approach every song I make.
Wow, I've never heard you say that before. That just like was a little bright light moment for me. That, yeah, there's a cure as well. Of course, there's an opposite, right? Like this is duality. So of course there's got to be the opposite. So yeah, focusing my energy on that light as opposed to, yeah, I mean, I work in a field where there's a lot of people that perceive a lot of struggle. I work in the recovery field with people who are recovering from drug addiction, and yeah, that's great. I'm definitely going to use that at work, you know, to focus on the light instead of getting weighed down by what you perceive as toxic.
And I actually had a lot of fun during COVID because, you know, people were like, did you get the vaccine? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm the cure. Like literally though, anybody that was around me, they just didn't get it. And it kept being funny to me because I'm like, yes, I'm the walking cure. Like if COVID is contagious, so is the cure. And it was fun.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm curious if so like I said, this is brought on by the International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANDS, and we talk about near-death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, all mystical experiences. Do you have any like routes of mystical experience that you really enjoy listening to? How do you feel about people sharing their stories? Do you feel like there's truth in near-death experiences? Are you a skeptic?
No, I'm not a skeptic at all. Because again, like to me, because we had the conversation about stories, and I always joke and say stories don't matter to me. It's more so the underlying message. So if it really sounds truthful, to me it is, you know. And again, that's how I got led to A Course in Miracles and things. I heard a snippet of Jesus, My Autobiography, which I didn't understand how that could be possible, but the content it sounded so real. Like it was like you're not trying to push a certain viewpoint. It was just kind of saying, hey, this is how truth is. You can take it or leave it. And so to backtrack to your original question. Wait, okay, can you ask it one more time?
Yeah, just, you know, as far as like mystical experiences, spiritual experiences, are you skeptical? Is there a certain route of it that you really enjoy listening to? I know that you got a thing with stories, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So but the thing is, and it's weird because I do enjoy the stories. Like if it's something I've never heard before, almost. I'm kind of a person that I just always like the new or the different. And so like recently I heard stories about I can't remember her name, but she was, you know, visited by ETs and she was taken and explored the cosmos. And I thought it was cool. Like it just opened my mind to new things that I didn't believe were possible. And I also, one of the beliefs that I hold is that if you believe it, it will be possible. Like we're only limited by our own beliefs. And so it really expanded my mind. And so, yeah, like now I'm not a skeptic of anything. I believe all exists, and our consciousness just frames what we want out of it.
Yeah. For me, that like you're talking about the underlying truth and listening to a story. And I feel like when people share their spiritual experiences, the underlying truth for me is expansion. I get to expand my awareness. I become more open-minded. It might not resonate for me in the moment. I might be like, I don't know. I don't think, and even as an experiencer myself, like I'm still totally skeptical. I'm like, could that happen? But I mean, it does open up my awareness to more things. I think that today in my spiritual development, I'm a lot more open-minded than I was before.
And this is freeing too. Like it's because it sucked to be, stuck in a box where only certain things could be good. And when you expand, it's so many things that can be good that there's no reason to ever dwell on what isn't.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because, you seem very upbeat and very positive, and we're talking about expansion and being the light and healing. Have you ever experienced any sort of lack emotions? Have you ever experienced depression, anxiety? Do you want to talk to that?
Yep. I was once depressed for 5 whole minutes and it sucked. It was worst 5 minutes. Didn't like it. I was like, how do people live like this? I didn't even say that. I was like, I can't live like this. Like, this is not a route for me. I cannot accept this. No. And I made a plan like right then and there. And I wouldn't even say the plan was necessarily right, but it gave me a focus. And just to get into specifics, I had blamed everything on like my financial situation. I said, well, I'm stuck at this job because I don't have enough money. I haven't made it in music because I couldn't put money to my career. And, I was just making all these excuses. And I was like, well, fine, money is the bad guy. I am going to attack money. Like, I don't even use the words attack anymore, but I was like, I'm going to attack money. And for the next 2 years, I read every personal finance book I could find, every finance book, and study, put into practice all of these things. And I was later able to get out of debt. And this was all pre A Course in Miracles and spiritual happenings. So, but it led to that. Like it cleared the way for that because at least in my mind, I was able to clear the clutter of thinking that there was obstacles that I couldn't overcome.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. Do you feel like certain books find their way to you on purpose?
Yes.
What are some of those books that have
Yeah.
really come at the exact right moment?
Well, of course, Course in Miracles, Jesus, my autobiography. I really loved, it was by Napoleon Hill called The Law of Success, but the condensed version is Think and Grow Rich. But like the expanded version is The Law of Success. I studied that for a while. Even his book, The Outwitting the Devil. And I no longer believe in the devil, but it's still a good book. Like it kind of laid foundations for certain beliefs based on the belief system I had at the time. What are some other good books? Oh yeah, Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle is an awesome book. Really anything just of a consciousness, expanding your mind, anything that's something you're interested in, even a little bit, like it's awesome to listen to, and it's all come at the right possible time.
I love that. So you just mentioned that you don't believe in the devil. Was that something that happened over time? Did you used to and now you don't? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually did not believe in like the devil's my savior, but like at a point I believed that the devil was real, but yeah, part of like me, because I used to study the Bible trying to just get answers to life. And I was like, well, why is the devil mentioned, but there's no origin story? Like you hear about he was a fallen angel, but none of that is in the Bible. And I always wondered, where people got it from. And the conclusion that I came to was that there's a positive force, like everything is just all positive, all good, and that's God. And then there's because I'm thinking in duality, there's this negative force. It's not equal, it's just different. And the way that I explain the different forces, if like you have a beautiful painting, let's say the Mona Lisa, and it's a great painting, and then somebody puts a red dot on there, and it's like you just ruined the painting. So you have all this surface area of good, but this one little bad dot that's all I'm saying. Like that's the power of evil, but it's a false power because it doesn't really hold any weight when you compare it, to the power of good. So I used to think that I was like, man, God in all his glory, to make the world, he had to partner with his mortal enemy. and like how good and how forgiving is just God to work with his enemy. So I thought we were like half God, half devil. But I've come to the realization now that what the devil is not God. So meaning like God is all there is. But if you not God, like if you say, you know what, I'm not going to accept God, it's been given the name of the devil. So like you can't really explain not God without saying God. But then when you give it a new name, when you redefine him as the devil, then you start to believe that the devil is real. But if you say it's not something, then you realize, oh, it's just not, it's not real.
Wow, I love that. I've never heard you put it that way before. Another little light bulb moment for me. I really like that. Yeah, so I think, well, we could probably start winding down a little bit. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk about sort of like the lack of diversity in the spiritual world.
So, okay, I can't say, okay. Actually, yeah, I can't say that. So, from what I've noticed of Blacks and spirituality, a lot of it is heavily Christian based, but not Christian as in, well, I don't want to split the types of Christians, but maybe like the traditional church-based Christian group. And because of the belief system, things like channels, it's like that's the devil, things like some of these expansive things are, a lot of people in that believe that that's not of God at all, and that we're tampering with something that's scary, and that we have to fear God's wrath if we, touch on that. And even in a way, like I was kind of almost believing that, but at the same time, I was like, nah, my interactions with God have all been pleasant. Like it's like a good friend sitting me down and explaining things almost. And so yeah, so the lack of diversity kind of comes, I feel, in that fear mindset from some Blacks. And I can only really speak on Blacks because that's just what I've been around. But there's also another aspect of that's kind of in between believing that all is good, but not so much stuck in like one mode. And it's been opening up, and yeah, the more we spread awareness just about these things, the more that people can accept and see the perfection in themselves as they are, and see the love that exists everywhere.
I love that. Yeah. And I think that really kind of goes for all diverse groups as well. The idea of religion might keep us in boxes and make us feel like we can't open up the door and see what else is out there, because yeah, it's kind of rigid, Yeah. So for me, like spirituality, being able to design my own sort of concept of spirituality has been a lot freer than if I was to go into the box of a particular organized religion, which I did in the beginning of my spiritual journey. I went into.
And it was cool, and I'm sure you can confirm this, is like the conversation of oneness, no matter which religion you have it with, they accept it and they understand it, because deep down, that's what they know are true too. And that's really the real foundation of all religions. It's just that we cover it up in rules.
Yeah. Definitely. That's definitely covered up for sure. And I feel like that's all starting to transform now. I always like to sort of to say that after we talk about something that maybe in the past has been something that's, like doesn't seem like it can shift. I really believe that there are shifts happening in all areas of the world right now, in all areas of the universe. And I appreciate you speaking on it, because I feel like when I find channels, or when I look at people inside of the spiritual communities, like, talking about mystical experiences, I don't see a lot of diversity. And I always, like sort of crave it or wonder why. And I'm glad that you felt comfortable enough to speak on that a little bit.
And I'll say real quick, because I always thought about, and thank you, I always thought about, like, could I be a channel? And I feel, a part of me feel like it would be too weird to have like another consciousness just come to me, like, wait, but I'll probably freak out. So maybe it's channeling through me, but it's just so subtle that I'm okay with it. So maybe, again, because we're only limited by our own fears. So yeah.
Yeah, I think in conscious conversations, like something is getting channeled out, like we have lots of conversations where we have sort of like these spiritual epiphanies. And it's like, well, that's not coming from me. It's got to be coming from there,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I definitely want people to be able to get a hold of you. Do you want to tell people where to get a hold of you? And then we'll put links in the bylines of the video as well.
Yes, my website is jclay.org. That's jclay.org. It has everything there, links to my social media, links to songs, music that you can purchase. The album, which is called I Am Nobody, I Am Someone, was made specifically to get people from where they are to a place of healing. And if you're already at a place of healing, it just reaffirms what you already know, and it just deepens that connection. So you will always know it in moments where you might have forgot it.
That is so cool. Yes. Please check out Jay's music. It is transformative. It is awesome. It's so fun on top of everything else. And I'm really grateful that you came on so that the audience can get to know you. Thank you for being my dear, dear friend. And yeah, my spiritual partner, like to walk through this journey together and learn and grow. And yeah, that's it. Do you feel like you want to say anything more to feel a little bit more complete before we finish?
No, really, I mean, that's it. Again, thank you as well. Thank you for the same things, being a spiritual partner. And like you've actually been a person that's kind of introduced me to other communities as well, to expand my mind even more than I thought possible. And it's cool because I've come to the realization that it's never going to stop. Like, it's just going to keep expanding and expanding. And that's the beauty of it all. Like it's just so much to do and to have fun and have joy about. So yeah, thank you.
That's beautiful. All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time. Be wavy.